bank. Try to do that with a lot of business investing. Invest in your people. Now, the attrition rate. Does anybody know what the average attrition rate is at a company? It's good to know, especially if you're trying to find new jobs.
25%.
That's not bad. It's about 18. It's about 18%. But at the best places to work, it's only 6 places. And one thing that I will point out, 2 of these companies in the last 45 years have never had anyone leave for any reason other than retirement or death. That's not bad. No layoffs. Because here's the biggest thing that a lot of companies have to look at. The cost to replace a customer service rep is about $18,000. That's what they're making, but it costs about $58,000 to replace them. Now let me ask you a question. The higher up on the food chain, so to speak, that this person is, the more money they make, is the ratio stay the same or does it get bigger? Much bigger, up to 10 times it can cost you to replace that person.
What are those 2 companies?
I'll talk to you later, okay? Because it is shifting, but one of them's in Minnesota if you really want to, you know. Which also says a lot about the company. Because how many people have Minnesota marked down as my favorite place to visit? Thank you, Bruce. I've been there once. I'm still having therapy. But anyway, the thing I want to point out on this is, say for example, if Robin, my assistant, were to come up to me and say, I'm leaving, don't get any ideas. I'm leaving. It would actually be better for me to say, how about I give you an 84% bonus instead, if you'll stay. And guess what? I'll break even. Because I'm going to spend that money to try to replace that person. That's the perspective you have to have. Now, the cost of turnover in a company is between 3.5% and 6% of their budget. If it's a $2 million budget, then this is part of what's costing that company. They're all looking for places to save. Now, this is very important. Retention is not just keeping people. Because let's face it, there are some people that if they were to come into my office and said, I'm leaving, I would go inside, hallelujah, you know. But, you know, I would not say, okay, I'll give you a bonus or what can I do to keep you? Because let's face it, there are some companies who just say, well, we only have a 4% attrition rate, and that's because they're keeping all the people that they wish they would leave. Okay? So don't think of retention just as not having the turnover. Everyone agree with that? If the only reason you're going for a job is to make more money, then you will not be happy. Job satisfaction is not derived from more money. What they found is more money just makes you more of what you already are. If you're unhappy, you'll just be a little more unhappy. If you're making a lot more, you'll be a lot more unhappy. Primary job satisfaction indicator is the work environment. And that's where servant leadership is going to come in. Hourly pay was shown to have almost no impact. As long as you're making enough to make ends meet, that wasn't the big factor. It was your environment. Now, customer satisfaction. Curiosity, novelty, well, that brings people in, but how do you keep them coming back? That's how they're treated and how they're served. Now, business practices and procedures can be immensely simplified so that they can become like Nordstrom's, whose entire employee handbook fits on a 5x8 card. Anybody been hired and read the employee handbook? I remember one place had one that was about that thick and everything, but their whole handbook fits on a card and, conveniently, on a slide. Welcome to Nordstrom's. We're glad to have you with our company. Our number one goal is to provide outstanding customer service. Set both your personal and professional goals high. We have great confidence in your ability to achieve them. Side note, or we wouldn't have hired you. Nordstrom rules. Rule number 1. Use your good judgment in all situations. There will be no other rules. Please feel free to ask your department manager, your store manager or division manager any question at any time. That's the employee handbook. How many of you would like to work at this kind of environment? Okay. Now let me tell you one little thing. It is absolutely frenetic. I couldn't handle it. I'm a little more laid back, and they are very go, go, go. Bruce, you'd love it. But here's the thing. Because of that environment, 50% of people leave in the first year because they just can't handle that type of environment. And people go, well, what about their attrition rate? Oh my word, 50% in the first year, but from then on, it's 2%. So they just have an ongoing training for the entry-level people, and it's not a big deal. They don't spend any more because they do it every single month. And these aren't people that are fired. These are people that just leave. So the tipping point is that relatively minor changes in our external environment can dramatically affect how we behave and who we are. For example, clean up graffiti, and all of a sudden people who would otherwise commit crimes won't. This is what they did in New York. They tried to double the police force. Crime went up. They started cleaning up the graffiti. Crime went way down. Why do you suppose that is?
You feel less justification for stealing or committing crime, having lived in Detroit for 9 months with all the graffiti and broken down houses. It was easy to pick up something in somebody's yard just because you would think it would be stolen by someone else if you didn't. So.
Yeah, it was just the way it was. The other message that was sent is, wait, if they're paying attention to graffiti, they really must be paying attention to the more serious things. And people just stop doing it. The other thing is, tell a seminarian that he has to hurry, and all of a sudden he starts to ignore bystanders in obvious distress, even though that's what he's all about. Just tell him, please hurry. Little tiny things. So what we need to do is arrange everything so that the strong have something to yearn for and the weak nothing to run from. And why? Because nothing is insignificant. So we've got to make wise decisions. If you don't act, you will be acted upon. Change happens. So if you're not making part of that change, it will happen regardless of what you do. The other thing is there's no such thing as standing still. We're all on an escalator that's going down. And if we're not moving forward, where are we going to end up? It's on the slide. No. Okay, thanks. Just making sure you're here. Okay. So the thing is you got to do it right so you don't have to do it again. And also, what you allow, you encourage. Remember that always. If you allow it to happen, you're actually encouraging it to happen. So the other thing I put up there is identify and treat causes, not just symptoms. For example, I have a daughter who is suffering from many illnesses, and for quite some time the doctor was treating the symptoms. This is to take care of the stomach, this is to take care of the headache, this is to... And it kind of worked, but it kept coming back. The problem was we found she had severe depression. So instead of taking those for the symptoms, we started to treat the depression. Guess what happened to the symptoms? They went away. And unless you're taking care of the causes, your symptoms are never going to go away. Okay, here's the test portion. There's 5 mountains in Europe higher than the Matterhorn. Name 2. The Alps, the entire mountain. He's probably covered some of them right there. Could you be, what? Mont Blanc. Yes, for those that speak